Peace Negotiations, Chapter 2. The next day started earlier for me than it usually would. Normally, I'd stay up late reading and sleep in the next morning. It's not like I had much else to do around here. I wasn't exactly allowed to leave the castle grounds, so I couldn't go look for things to do in the city. I try to help out the castle staff whenever I could, but there's only so much I can do before the maids start to think I'm out for their jobs. With no internet or television, that mostly left me with reading and sleeping. Not that I minded, though. I loved to read and loved having the time to do so. I found myself outside the castle dining room before I knew it. I pushed through the door, book under arm, and made my way inside. To my surprise, Princess Celestia was sitting at the table, munching away at a muffin. She turned to see who had entered the room and smiled warmly when her eyes landed on me.
Well, this is a rare occasion. You're usually still asleep at this hour, Liam.
I returned the smile and made my way to sit near the solar diararch. Well, yeah, and so is 99% of the country. Not everyone has to wake up and put a giant fireball into the sky.
That is true, but that doesn't answer my implied question. Why do I have the pleasure of your company this morning? It's not often that we see each other this early.
Well, I went to bed early last night. I had gotten enough reading done for one day. She giggled at that.
You? Get enough reading? I'm not sure that's possible. I don't think I've ever seen you without a book. You must have turned in early to get an early start on reading today.
Well, you're not wrong, I agreed with a lighthearted chuckle. So, what's on the agenda today?
Meetings with a sprinkle of decor, the usual. And you?
Do you really have to ask? She just giggled again and took a bite of muffin. A waiter came and took my order soon after, and it wasn't long before I was eating a muffin of my own. Celestia spoke up again.
You should drop by my chambers more often, Liam. We don't get to see enough of each other, and I enjoy our talks. They're simple, and they don't tend to involve politics or underhooved attempts to gain power.
Now, who said I'm not looking for power? I said as I took another bite of delicious muffin. As the King of Equestria, I could make an entire holiday dedicated to reading.
Oh, I have no doubt my student would bend the knee and swear loyalty to you immediately. But I don't think you would last a day as a king,
she said playfully. I was inclined to agree. It would be too much stress, and based on her schedule, I wouldn't have time to do anything. I was about to tell her that just when the door to the dining room opened and an annoyed changeling queen wandered in. She seemed to be mumbling something under her breath, but I couldn't tell what. She took a few more steps before realizing that she wasn't alone in the room. She gave Celestia a glare that could kill, and me a glare that could turn a sandy beach into a plane of glass.
Good morning to you, Queen Chrysalis,
Celestia said, unfazed by the queen's aggressive leering. The queen's gaze lingered on me as she approached the large banquet table. She sat directly across from me, her stare never wavering.
Have you met Liam, Chrysalis? No,
she said simply. I said nothing to contradict her statements, and if she wanted to pretend yesterday hadn't happened, I was happy to oblige.
How were the negotiations with my sister last night? Fruitful, I hope?
The changeling's gaze finally left me and turned to Celestia.
Yes, they were very fruitful. I'm glad. I'll have to get the details from Luna later. I apologize again for not being able to attend myself. I had some prior arrangements that needed to be dealt with.
Chrysalis said nothing. The now nervous waiter came back and took her order too before disappearing once again into the kitchen. The room descended into an awkward silence after that. I thought changelings ate emotions or something. What was the point in ordering food? You know, now that I got a good look at her, Chrysalis wasn't nearly as unpleasant to look at as I imagined she would be. She wasn't attractive, I wouldn't know how to gauge that in another species anyway, but if ponies were cute by fluffy cat standards, I guess changelings would be cute in hairless cat standards? The holes in her legs were a bit unnerving, but it was easy enough to get past. In all honesty, I wasn't sure why I had been so scared of her last night. I guess it's hard to be scared of something that you'd knocked out by accident. So, I said, trying to break the silence. The negotiations between the Hive and Equestria are done? The queen's eye shot up to me once again, and her lips pulled back in a wicked grin, showing off her sharp fangs.
Yes, me and my Hive are officially part of Equestria now. I'll be living in the castle from now on.
So, I guess I'll be seeing more of you then? I asked.
You'll be seeing much more of me, my little human. You belong to me now, after all.
That seemed to pique Celestia's interest. She set down the cup of tea she'd been sipping from and turned to the Changeling Queen.
What do you mean he belongs to you? I thought you hadn't met each other yet.
I guess the cat was now out of the bag now. That didn't take long. The grin on the Queen's face deflated slightly. She looked like a dog that knew its toy was going to be taken away, and considering that I was that toy, I wasn't sure I felt bad for her. "We met last night," I said. And Chrysalis shot another glare my way, obviously trying to shut me up.
Oh? And how did that happen?
Celestia asked, curiously. I gave her a quick rundown of the events that had transpired the night before. She sat and listened intently, mirth dancing in her eyes. All the while, Chrysalis was trying to kill me with her mind.
Chrysalis? If you were looking for someone to ravish you, you couldn't have picked a worse target.
Celestia teased, causing Chrysalis to blush green in embarrassment.
Liam here is the biggest bibliophile I've met, barring my students. You'll have an easier time seducing an Ursa Major than going after him.
Now it was my turn to blush.
But,
she continued,
that only answers one of my questions. What did you mean when you said Liam belongs to you?
I was curious about that too. I remembered the Changeling saying something about that last night, but I guess I was too busy rendering her unconscious to listen to what she was saying. Chrysalis took a second to compose herself, before speaking matter-of-factly.
The human belongs to me now. It was agreed during the negotiations that the possession of the human would be passed to me.
Celestia's demeanor turned serious, and she turned to give the Changeling Queen her full attention.
When did this happen? I never agreed to any such terms. It happened last night. Princess Luna saw no issue with it, so we both agreed to it.
Celestia wasn't happy to hear that. She looked like she had drank sour milk. I mean, I couldn't blame her. I wasn't exactly enthralled by this confession either.
It appears,
Celestia said,
that my sister and I need to have another one of our talks about what is and what isn't acceptable in this day and age. Liam is not an object to be possessed, Chrysalis.
She turned to me.
I can assure you, Liam, that this will not stand.
Thanks, I said simply. Celestia stood up and looked out the window briefly before shaking her head.
I will have to talk to Luna later. For now, I have meetings to attend, and I hope that both of you enjoy the rest of your morning.
She then walked out of the dining room to start her day, leaving me alone with someone who had apparently conspired to enslave me. Good times, good times. I took another bite of my muffin before looking down at the book I'd set on the table. I picked it up, noting the flinch from Chrysalis, and opened it to the page I'd left off on. I frowned at the slightly crumpled page. Oh well. It was my fault for using the tome as a projectile weapon in the first place. I began to read. I could tell that Chrysalis was watching me, but it didn't bother me so long as she stayed on her side of the table. I felt bad for doming the Bug Queen, but she was the one that burst through the door. We sat there like that for a while, me reading, her watching me, or glaring at me, from a safe distance. I looked up again when the waiter came back out of the kitchen with a covered dish on his back. I found it a little strange, considering my food, as well as Celestia's, was just brought on a simple plate. Celestia liked to keep things fairly casual when she could, and I was pretty sure covered dishes were normally only used for formal events. The waiter still looked nervous, but professionalism seemed to win out, as he dutifully brought the dish over to the waiting Changeling Queen. As soon as the dish hit the table, the waiter hightailed it back out of the room. I guess professionalism only went so far. I went back to go reading, but Chrysalis grabbed my attention by clearing her throat. When she saw I was watching, she grinned wickedly once again before she lifted the covering off the plate. A raw cut of meat sat there, slightly bloody. I had known the castle had a small store of meat for Griffin visitors, and I even dipped into it when I could. She was clearly trying to make a dramatic scene out of it. I didn't think much of it and returned to my book. However, I wasn't allowed to get far before Chrysalis cleared her throat again. She didn't look very happy, but then again, I hadn't seen her be happy yet. I sighed. "Do you need something?"
Does this not disturb you?
She asked, gesturing to the bloody meat. No. Is it supposed to?
How does the sight of bloody corpse flesh not disturb you? Isn't everyone in this country supposed to be terrified by the thought of harm coming to other creatures?
She sounded offended that I wasn't offended. Well, for many equestrians, that's probably true, but I'm not from this country. If you're worried about me judging you for what you eat, don't be. I also eat meat on a regular basis, so that, I gestured to the plate, doesn't bother me in the slightest.
You eat other creatures?
There's no need to sound so surprised, I said. You're not the only one with sharp teeth. My people actually made an entire industry based on the slaughter of animals like cows and pigs, raised specifically for the purpose of being eaten. She shot up out of her seat and backed away from the table. She looked absolutely disgusted.
You're telling the truth. You don't even feel any remorse for consuming other creatures.
Is something wrong? Weren't you going to eat that? I asked sincerely.
They call us monsters for trying to survive, but they let you live with them in their own home? What are they thinking?
She asked before she too left the room. Okay. That took a weird turn, I thought. I looked down at the raw cut of meat on the plate once again and sighed. She just left it there, and the waiter probably wouldn't be back out anytime soon, and that left the cleanup to me. I sighed again. Whatever. At least I can read in peace for a while now that she's gone. I ate the last bite of my muffin and returned to my book. Wow. Chrysalis is going up against a giant. One person who doesn't get fazed by her tricks at all. This is gonna be very interesting in the future. Anyway, I'd love to give a very special thank you to my non-disturbing donators. Top donator, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, Dresdon, Dospo, RuneScythe9852, CourierCruz CI, Delta Omega, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Dwight Cornel, Gagi, Secret Moon, Tallrascha, Starlight Glimmer, David D. Sanchez, Trey, Pokekiller Zach, Soul Dragon, Dak Britton, and Joe Piercy. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one.